हेलो एवरीवन, आज हम स्टार्ट करेंगे चैप्टर नंबर 4 का एनालिसिस. ठीक है. ओके, लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ. आई कैन से दैट इसमें इट इज़ द चैप्टर दैट डील्स विद द हार्ड वर्क that is the life of Bama's community in her village. As I said in my summary, this chapter is an institute and critique of caste practices and their relationship to labor and ownership of resources in our community. I suggested that, ये writer बोल रही है, I suggested that wherever you live, you should look around and observe all kind of physical labor and try to estimate how much reward laborers get for their work. Do you think a worker at a construction site or one building a road can change their station in life easily? Do you think they earn enough money to live in comfort at some point of their lives? Do you think the caste has a role to play in their being confined to such lives? These questions are inevitable if you read Bama's work. You will notice that Bama doesn't denigrate work. She talks of how people were surprised that she did not hesitate to help her mother in carrying headloads of firewood, even though she had finished her 10th class in a convent. Okay, her reaction is interesting. I don't know why they were so surprised. In those days, I really enjoyed that kind of hard physical labor. Do you think this is a typical attitude of the educated? Does our education system take people away from and make them look down on physical labor? Or does it encourage us to practice and appreciate it? The answer, in my opinion, is that our education system encourages us to look down on physical labor as the lot of those who have failed to improve themselves. मतलब जो पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं ना, वो physical labor को अच्छा नहीं मानते हैं. So Bama's reaction is interesting. She doesn't look down on the work that her community does. She is only aghast at the fact that वो परेशान है इस फैक्ट से कि society doesn't recognize or reward the importance of this labor. Okay, now ये बोल रहे हैं कि reread the first paragraph of the chapter. She starts off by saying that from the time she was young, she has lived among hardworking people, like her own mother and grandmother, who labored from sunrise to sunset without any rest. She then says that even today, men and women in her village can survive only through hard labor. While labor is enjoyable, it is not paying. It is exploited by others who control the levers of power. In her usual style, she then describes the work that is available in rural Tamil Nadu. However, she moves smoothly to the specific. She speaks of her village and her people who, if not other work is available, must go up to the hills to gather firewood or do other work in order to eat. She then describes the work done by other backward castes and say that it is only people of her community who had to work so hard. Hard work is a way of life for her family, with a grandmother waking as early as 2 in the morning to do household chores before going to work at the Niker household, where she was a servant, and coming back only after sunset. Notice her description of her grandmother. Everybody said that my Pati was a true and proper servant. Pati means dadi hoga, hai na? Her grandmother is not being described even in terms of her labor, but in terms of her carrying out her duties to her master, to the family that she was bonded to. This is why you must pay a particular attention to Bama's writing more than most other writers. Bama's writing thrives on simplicity. अब ये स्टाइल के बारे में बताया गया है उनकी, है ना. Bama's writing thrives on simplicity and curiously for someone who uses what has traditionally been seen as non-literary or even impolite language. She more often than not makes her points with a certain indirectness, almost without emphasizing them. You may remember that Bama talks of her grandmothers in chapter 2 as well, where she also describes the way this grandmother was treated by the family she worked for. It is in the reiteration, in the repetition of what I call the ripple effect that emphasize and strengthen strength of feeling emerge. Bama's method is visible again in the way she goes off to describe all the hard work she used to do as a young girl in order to augment the family's meager income. This is when she talks of exploitation by the Niker employers and the Nadar tradesmen. She also talks once again about untouchability as a set of rules she had learned to observe. वो बोलती हैं कि all the time I went to work for the Nikers, I knew I should not touch their goods or chattels. I should never come close to where they were. I should always stand away to one side. Another point that Bama repeatedly makes, as did Ambedkar, is that it is education that is the way out for Dalits. In it is their salvation. Notice how in this chapter, after speaking of her hard work and untouchability, she talks about her convent school where she didn't have to do this kind of work. I ate my meals. वो बोलती हैं कि I ate my meals and I studied. That was all. Not that she learned to look down on physical labor during her holidays. She says, I did all the chores that fell to me. She then says how much she enjoyed hard physical labor. It is then that she talks of how this labor doesn't improve the lot of Dalits. That this is what they have to do even to survive. She also points out how there is indiscrimination between men and women in terms of even those paltry wages. She points out that her community is still cheerful and seems to take this hard life, but then when do they have the time to stop and think? After pointing out that upper caste society couldn't survive without this labor, Bama finishes on the pessimistic note, since now even tiny tots are sent off to matchbox and firecracker factories and have no time to study. Bama's technique then reinforces her theme, the place of hard physical work in the lives of Dalit from childhood till death, and even the chance for education, their only hope to break free of the cycle of exploitation, receding with increasing work load on children. We are on the analysis of chapter number 8. अब chapter number 4 का analysis हो गया. अब हम करेंगे chapter number 8 का analysis. Let me see how much is left.